glossy fields of ancient void, through the shields of darkness where they find love upon the land of world unknown, where the sons of freedom make their home. Leave the earth to Satan and his slaves, lead them to their future in their graves, make a home where love is there to stay, peace and happiness in every day.
What's up, gooies? Gooies and gooils. Thanks for coming out. Figured we'd kick it off with a little old-time rock and roll. Show you a couple things we'll be going over. The main thing is this right here. The next chapter of the ugly truth about the ADL. Hello, Tammy T. Is the hubby watching tonight, Tammy? That's my girl, Marge Talica. For the longest time, I thought it said Margaret Talica. Alright, that's enough of that. It's time to get down to business. Alright, if you guys haven't heard anything about what we're up to now, we've got 5 chapters behind us. And there's a lot of detailed information. Matter of fact, it's making my fucking head spin. But the main point is everything from top to bottom has a Jew behind it. It's not me. It's not my fault that that's the truth. That's just reality. So, in previous chapters, they went in this book all the way from Abraham Lincoln's assassination involving B'nai B'rith, all the way up to communist spies and dictators and all this shit. In this chapter, they're going to be mentioning this guy, Jay Pollard, also known as Jonathan Pollard. Let's see here. This guy. Would you trust that guy? First of all, never trust a man with a mustache without a goatee. Never trust it. Look at that. He's either a kitty diddler or a cop or a frickin' Jewish communist spy. You guys know about, look at him. Oh, creepy, man. Creepy deepy. He needs to just shave that head. Just give it up on it, man, because that shit is waving goodbye, just like mine. Alright, so, you guys heard about Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, the 2 Jewish spies who were put to death in the 1950s? That's how you handle spies. That's how you handle spies taking away nuclear secrets. They're the reason that Russia got the bomb so soon after we did. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Alright? Back in those days, we still had enough good gooies in the government that they got put to fucking death. Alright, but this guy, see if I can find him again. This guy, he got life in prison. He got caught in 1984. All he got was life in prison. And then he got released. Who released him? Was it Obama? Anybody in the chat? Rosenberg. You got it, gun noob. Rosenberg. So let's see if we can find out that info. Let's see here. Let's go check it out. Let's see. I know you guys can't see, but I'll be checking it out. Let's see if I can find out about his release. There's capture, investigation, trial, sentencing, appeals, citizenship. Of course, you know where he fled to right after he was released, right? Israel. Yeah. Parole. There you go. When did he get parole? 2015. So yeah, at the end of Obama's presidency, he let this motherfucker out. Can you believe that shit? Anyway, just a quick thing. Last night's chat, I was trying to figure out what waylay meant. I said it was to wait in ambush and attack somebody. I was vindicated. That's just the archaic definition. Okay. Let's see here. Alright, let's get to the text, shall we? Let's just jump right on in it. So this is going to be the communist dictator and spies angle. Last chapter, I believe, went over all the money angles, and it's just, you would not believe, guys. I encourage you to, number one, subscribe, hit the bell, and number two, go back and catch up on all that information. There's a lot of information you missed. Well, that's okay though, because we're going to be doing a lot more in the future. All right, the guy on the left is Edgar Bronfman. He's a guy who was running whiskey and alcohol with Joe Kennedy back in the day across the Canadian border during the days of Prohibition. See, anytime you outlaw something, you make a nice little market for yourself, which is why drugs are still illegal, because there's a lot of money being made on them. Izzy's crazy. All right, I got no mods in this, so I trust you guys to be good. The only ground rules are you just keep it civil, that's all. I don't want to hear about filthy Jews and all that shit. We know what they're up to, and it's enough to just expose their shit. Besides, I mean, look, it's not every Jew. Not every Jew that owns J.P. Morgan. So, but there's enough of them that are into dirty shit that we should call out the Jews. On the day in November 1985 that Israeli spy Jonathan J. Pollard was arrested, things went haywire at the ADL's headquarters near United Nations Plaza in New York City. They said, "Oh, they're on to us." National Chairman Kenneth Bialkin immediately flew off to Israel to assess the damage and to make arrangements for the appropriate American attorneys to be brought in to represent not only the jailed spy, but the other, more senior players in the nominally Israeli spy ring. So this guy looks like the guy that took the fall, this Pollard guy. Apparently, there were more higher up guys who were involved that didn't take the fall. Only old Pollard took the fall. Guilty, yes, but he was not the main guy. And nor were there only a couple. There were a lot more. Are you guys familiar with the 1950s, where the guy was on a hunt for communist traitors, Joe McCarthy? And they all painted him as crazy. The Jewish media went nuts. They said, "Oh, he's insane. There's a Jew behind every corner, blah, blah, blah." They successfully painted him as crazy. But guess what? There was a lot of merit. That I also thought that he was crazy. But once I started digging into it, it was when that he started exposing Jews in Hollywood and Jews in higher up positions that were communists. If you look at Hollywood and you look at the shit that Hollywood is putting out, if you look at the messages that they're putting out, for instance, Handsome Truth went over the idea of miscegenation, which is mixing of the races. Now, to each their own, you do what you want, but they are intentionally trying to debauch both of the races. Number one, with the rap music and all that shit, to try to take out the black races and to degrade them into animals. If you remember, black people used to make beautiful, fucking beautiful music. And now it's down to the lowest standard of decency. Now, I like some type of rap shit. I mean, I'll listen to Cypress Hill's first album, even a little Biggie, if you catch me in the right mood, the first album. And, you know, Rage Against the Machine is kind of a fusion between rock and rap. I love Rage. They just get me fucking fired up. But the majority of the shit out there, it's all guns, money, and bitches and hoes and treating women like shit. It's just the most degrading shit out there. And that's a product of these communist Jews who are running the media. Not only music, not only Hollywood, not only our regular media, but newspapers and every other form of media that you can think of. Even plays, even the arts. There's a degrading, what is art today? The guy who made a picture of fucking Campbell's soup cans, that's art? I don't think so. Art started to be degraded in the early 1900s as well. Art used to be something of a special quality, something that took skill. Art and sculptures and paintings and all that shit. But now it's all the lowest common denominator of trash. So all of our morals, all of our arts and media have been degraded. So McCarthy was taking these people out. He was exposing them for what they are. But he got sidetracked, he got infiltrated, and he got taken out along the way. Okay, so back to the text. Among the most important of these senior players that didn't get caught was Colonel Aviem Sela, an Israeli Air Force war hero who had been Pollard's recruiter on behalf of the secret Israeli techno spy unit, Lechem. This was news to me. Sela's cover for his spy recruiting was that he was in the United States taking graduate courses at New York University, and Sela's wife, Ruth, a practicing attorney, reportedly was working on the staff of the ADL's legal department while the couple lived in New York. Any published links between the ADL and the Pollard spy apparatus could naturally prove very damaging, especially in the light of the cozy relationship the League was enjoying with the Reagan White House at the time. Guys, it's tough to follow this shit, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of names, and it's like a quick overview of what's going on, so it might require a little extra attention at it, and I got nothing against the chat, but you guys might have to watch this again if you're chatting a little too much. But have fun, enjoy yourselves. While still in Israel, Bialkin telephoned fellow ADL man Leonard Garment of the politically powerful law firm of Dickstein Shapiro. These guys, these law firms, if you hear these previous chapters, it's fucking hilarious, these law firms. Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. Garment was then personal lawyer for the U.S. Attorney General Edwin Meese. He agreed at Bialkin's urging to represent Sela in the Pollard matter, despite the obvious severe conflict of interest. At the ADL's Washington, D.C. office, Myra Lansky, not Meyer Lansky, Myra Lansky, Boland, was also undoubtedly worried that her own links to Pollard might surface. Lansky Boland had been a classmate and pal of Pollard. Ooh, what a surprise. At the graduate school program in National Security Affairs at the Fletcher School of Diplomacy of Tufts University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now, if that doesn't ring a bell like it doesn't for me, that's because that's where all the rich kids go. Nothing against rich kids, but you get into some special schools where they teach you how much better you are than the rest of us, working class people. Upon graduation in 1978, both Lansky and Pollard had been immediately placed into sensitive posts in the U.S. intelligence community. Pollard had gone into naval intelligence and had almost immediately begun funneling secrets to Israel. Myra Lansky Boland had gone to work for the Central Intelligence Agency. Ay, ay, ay. After a 2-year stint with the CIA, she had transferred to the Pentagon, where she worked under Dr. Andrew Marshall at the Office of Net Assessments, a little-known but powerful unit that prepared technical assessments of Soviet military capabilities. In 1982, Lansky had left the government to work full-time for the ADL in Washington. So here you have a person with Myra Lansky money who's in the CIA, who's in the Pentagon, and working on our government's technical assessment of the Soviet military capabilities. What could go wrong with that? What could fucking possibly go wrong with that? Shortly, I'll tell you what, reading this has given me a little bit of pessimism about our government. It's been taken over completely and utterly. Shortly after her arrival at the ADL from the Pentagon, She was assigned as the case officer on the league's multi-million-dollar campaign to smear and jail Lyndon LaRouche and scores of his associates. Lyndon LaRouche was a guy, it was an economist, I believe, who was calling out the Jew, and so he got a special attention from the ADL. Just like we're getting attention from the ADL and all the censorship they want on us. They don't want us to speak. But damn it, I'm going to speak. That means in a time of censorship, in a time of extra censorship, it is that much more important for you guys to produce your own type of content and to get out there, even if it's just reading a book or putting up a meme or anything. We need to fight back against this censorship. Following the Pollard arrest, Andrew Marshall would be identified as a suspected senior member of the Pollard spy ring, although no charges were ever brought against him, and he remains to this day in his post at the Defense Department. Unbelievable. When they say to this day, I believe this was written in 1994. Okay, just to put it in perspective. To this day, Pentagon officials have never succeeded in pinning down the identity of the Mr. X, who gave Pollard the code numbers of the classified documents that the naval intelligence analyst then stole and passed on to Leckham. Of course, they don't give you the big boys. They sacrifice a guy like Pollard so that it appeases the public, and then we go back into not worrying about it, thinking the spies have all been rounded up. It's a great distraction. As a matter of fact, speaking of distractions, I just wanted to say something real quick. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I hate labels. I don't like labeling myself because it boxes you into something that people can easily stigmatize, I guess you could say. Plus, it gives you this idea that you have to fight for your team. So if you say I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, then when a Democrat or a Republican says something you don't like, you tend to defend them anyway because they're on our team, so to speak. And that's a terrible mentality to have. And sometimes maybe your team will say some things that that are like, if they say some things that you're against, you won't criticize it. And sometimes if they say things that you're not against, but you know aren't that good, you won't criticize it. So it's not good, labels. But I'll tell you this, there's something going on in our country, speaking of distractions, of this guy who's going for the Supreme Court nomination. Now, I'm not on any teams, but I don't want to see a crazy liberal go into the Supreme Court because they're so anti-white these days that it makes me scared. But at the same time, this guy's not good for the people because I spent 5 minutes on Wiki, maybe 10 minutes on Wiki, just on Wiki, which is full of lies. And I found out some things about this guy. It turns out that he sided with the NSA against our Fourth Amendment rights, okay? And he sided with them collecting information on us, even though we're not suspected of a crime, even though they don't have a warrant that is completely against our Constitution. This guy also worked for a law firm, which is the biggest, highest grossing law firm in the fucking world. He was an Exxon lawyer, and he defended Exxon, so he's working for the people that we are against. He is a tool of the establishment. Now, we're in a position as the people where we can't, no matter who they nominate, it's going to be against our best interest in some form or fashion. But what do we get on the TV all day, every day? Everybody's talking about how he's, accused of raping these women or sexually attacking these women 30 fucking years ago with no witnesses and no real evidence. But we're talking about this over and over and over instead of talking about the legitimate questions we could have, such as if something came before the Supreme Court in terms of Exxon, would he recuse himself being an Exxon lawyer? Or if something came up in front of the Supreme Court about our fucking rights to not be spied on by the NSA, is he going to side with the NSA again? So all we hear about is all this bullshit. It reminds me of the, what was the guy? Clarence Thomas. Back in the 80s, he was going for the Supreme Court nomination. All they talked about was the Anita Hill thing, right? Sound kind of familiar? All they were talking about, Anita Hill, but nobody mentioned that he was a fucking Monsanto lawyer. Nobody talked about the fact of his Monsanto ties. So when Monsanto wants to poison our fucking food and make the frogs gay, which there's actually some merit to that. When he wants to, side with Monsanto, do we ever hear about that? No, we hear about Anita Hill. How about when Clinton was under impeachment charges? Did you guys know that it really wasn't about Monica Lewinsky and him getting a head job in the Oval Office? Who gives a fuck about these scandalous things? We care about criminal matters. Did we ever hear anything about really Whitewater? Was it really talked about? How about all the people the Clintons are suspected of murdering? Do we hear anything of any merit? No. So this whole thing is a dog and pony show with this guy going for the Supreme Court. They are not talking about any of the things that matter. Nothing. Once again, the people lose. So don't buy the dog and pony show. It's all a charade, a distraction. Distract the American people. They're like, look over here, gooooy. You see the little thingy over here? Don't look over there, where real life things exist. All lies, all distractions. Okay, I just had to make that point. I had to rant a little bit. So, we talk about this severe conflict of interest with Bjalkin. Let me check the chat real quick. He'll do whatever the Jews tell him to do, Gun Noob says. I agree. All a Jewish party system, right? They've got both sides. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. It's all bullshit. Mile High says, I live close to where the body counts took place for Clinton. Yeah, you think that the impeachment process with Clinton talked anything about Mena, Arkansas, and all the drugs being run in and out of there when he was governor? Nah. Let's talk about Monica Lewinsky giving him a knob job. Fucking bullshit. I love the meme magic it creates, though. What rights? Yeah, good point, Mac. You know what? If we don't stand up for rights, we have none. If we don't understand what our rights are, we have none. How about all these people who swear to uphold the Constitution, right, against all enemies, foreign and domestic? How many of those people have actually read the Constitution? So when you join the military, you sign an oath of fealty to the United States and to the Constitution of the United States, to uphold it against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But how are you going to uphold a Constitution you haven't read? Should it not be mandatory that they at least read the fucking thing? It drives me nuts. It's like people who swear that the Bible is the good book. And there are some good things in there. There are some bad things in there. But the people who swear that, the good book, I swear my life to it and all, how many have read it? Just a little something to think about. At the ADL's Washington, D.C. office, Myra Lansky Boland was also undoubtedly worried that her own links to Pollard might surface. Lansky Boland had been a classmate and a pal of Pollard at the graduate school of Fletcher, diplomats, and Tufts University. Just going over this again. Upon graduation, Lansky and Pollard had been immediately placed into sensitive posts in the U.S. intelligence community. Placed. They were placed there. Pollard had gone into naval intelligence and had almost immediately begun funneling secrets to Israel. Incidentally, I was reading up a little bit about Pollard before the stream so I can get up to date on things. And Pollard initially went to get into the CIA. But he did terribly on the polygraph examinations, and so the CIA said beat it. But the naval intelligence took him. So, if you guys want to get into some intelligence services, apparently the naval intelligence has a lower standard. So, Lansky Boland gone to work for the CIA. After a 2-year stint with the CIA, she transferred to the Pentagon, where she worked under Andrew... Oh, we've already gone there. My apologies. In fact, where are we? The Leckham unit. Guys, I think my ranting has made me lose my place. Just hang in there a minute. Jimmy Carter, Secretary of Commerce. All right, let's just go here. Lansky Boland had gone to work for the CIA. After 2 years with the CIA, she transferred to the Pentagon, and she worked under Andrew Marshall at the Office of Net Assessments, which assessed Soviet military capabilities. She left the government to work for the ADL full-time. After she arrived at the Pentagon, she was assigned as a case officer on the ADL's multi-million-dollar campaign to smear Lyndon LaRouche. Then, to this day, Pentagon officials never found Mr. X. There's still spies running around. Pollard Lansky had gotten into their government spy jobs courtesy of this Fletcher School Professor Yuri Ratinin, I guess. Ratinin, a Oxford University-trained Middle East expert, had himself been an Israeli government intelligence operative, posted in New York City and Washington during the 1950s and the 1960s. While serving as a quote-unquote press attaché at the Israeli embassy in Washington in the mid-1960s, Ratinin had helped set up a unit that would recruit Israeli spies from the ranks of American businessmen traveling frequently to the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. Guys, this is why that dual citizenship is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Obviously, the ones that Israel is recruiting for this spying, overwhelmingly they're American Jews whose primary loyalty, is to Israel first. No matter what they say, no matter what kind of lies they tell you, no matter how they wave the American flag, it's bad enough we have enough regular Americans who are willing to spy. An Israeli dual citizen should not be part of our government, and one of these days we're going to get together and force the Congress to change that shit. Oh, by the way, Oxford University was mentioned. Oxford University is in London, where Rhodes Scholars are trained. Rhodes Scholars came out, it's a Rothschild thing, Rhodes Scholars. It came out of Cecil Rhodes. I don't know if you guys have ever read Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley. Carol Quigley was Bill Clinton's mentor and professor in college. And Carol Quigley got a chance to study this round table group, which eventually created the international, the Royal Institute for International Affairs in England, which then spun off a sister group called the Council on Foreign Relations. And the Council on Foreign Relations decides all our foreign and domestic policy. And so when they want a guy like Bill Clinton, they select him early and they send him to Oxford to become Rhodes Scholars. And they teach him all about the ways they want them to work for them. So when I hear Oxford University, alarm bells go off big time. And that's where this Myra Lansky Boland went. Okay. Eventually, we're going to read Tragedy and Hope, I think. So, Ratinin helped set up a unit that would recruit Israeli spies from the ranks of American businessmen traveling frequently to the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. That spy unit, which was unearthed in a series of civil suits beginning in 1967, was housed at the headquarters of the B'nai B'rith International. Ratinin's contact point inside the B'nai B'rith was Philip Klutznick, who we went over before in previous chapters, an honorary national chairman of the ADL, who would later serve as President Jimmy Carter's Secretary of Commerce. So how about that? An ADL man, a top-level Klutznick, an ADL top-level guy, Secretary of Commerce. It's unbelievable how deep the rabbit hole goes. It's unbelievable. Among the damage control efforts launched by the ADL in the wake of the Pollard case, or the Pollard arrest, was the planting of a string of news accounts and editorials portraying Pollard as a loyal American who was also committed to the security of the State of Israel. Okay, first of all, a loyal American would not be worried about the interests of another country. Period. Okay? I'm part Italian, I'm part Irish, I'm part English, but I'm not worried about Italy's interests over American interests. I'm kind of concerned about London and England and the fact that it's not London or England anymore. But that does not trump my loyalties to this country. So they sent all these news media things or stories that he's just a loyal American who also happened to be committed to the security of the state of Israel. Bullshit. Harmless, quote-unquote, friendly espionage. Well, my friends, that is an oxymoron. But that's the kind of shit they sell us in the media. A friendly espionage. That was the term coined by the League, the ADL, as they were putting on their hand sanitizer, and its small army of paid agents inside the news media. Sorry, guys. Hold on a second. I gotta put on my hand sanitizer. Pardon me. I didn't mean it. It was just a little hand sanitizer. Agent provocateur is the word of the day, by the way. Guys, be on the lookout for those, because we don't do anything against the law. We don't even like to have our language be abrasive, and we don't like to use pejoratives and epithets. You guys know what they all are, and we try to steer clear of that. So, if you guys see people in the chat who are saying terrible things about Jews, that dirty Jew, that filthy Jew, and all that, that person right there might be a provocateur. Okay. Let's see. Unfortunately, Pollard's spying was anything but harmless or friendly. The Lechem unit, headed by the former chief of European operations for the Mossad, Raphael, or Dirty Rafi, Raphael Dirty Rafi Eitan, was passing on the most sensitive of the American national security secrets heisted by Pollard to the Soviet KGB. In return, Moscow was opening up the pipeline of Soviet Jews to Israel. It was treachery of the highest order, and then Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger was fully aware of the magnitude of Pollard's crimes when he asked the judge to sentence Pollard to life in prison after the spy agreed to plead guilty. In a 46-page classified affidavit submitted to the judge in the Pollard case, Weinberger showed that much of the Pollard material wound up in Soviet hands, and that it would cost the United States billions of dollars to repair the national security damage done by the Pollard spy ring. How convenient. It's going to cost billions of more dollars, which the United States can borrow from the Jewish-run Federal Reserve. It all works. Everything works for them. They make money coming and going, these people who are running shit. It's sickening. It's really sickening. In fact, the millions of pages of classified documents funneled by Pollard to the KGB, millions of pages of classified documents, a majority were of no critical interest to Israel at all. So they tried to paint him as a guy just concerned about Israel, but the majority of the things that he funneled to the KGB had nothing to do with Israel. Guys, all right, let's take a look at the chat. Let's see what we've got. What's going on in the chat? That dual shit's gotta go. Blue Velvet, absolutely. How many do we have in here, by the way? I can't see. Oh, 38. That's good. We're doing well. I appreciate you guys coming. I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate Handsome Truth giving me a shout out. I won't let you down. Let's just put it that way. I'm fiercely loyal. And as a matter of fact, I don't consider myself necessarily a card-carrying member of the GDL. That's for other people to decide, not for me. I don't like labels. I'm a free agent, but I can tell you that our interests definitely coincide. No, not coincide, but co-inside. Let's see what else we got here. Tomorrow never seems to come, says Remulac 9. Oxford University is in Oxford. The clue's in the name. Nicholas Phillip. Yeah, he had access to CFR. Goku sounds like this I don't know if you're male or female, but we are definitely majority male, so I'll go with male. Doesn't matter. CFR files, you guys, I don't know if you understand the significance of the CFR, but that's okay. It's a whole other rabbit hole. We'll jump in there eventually. Our government is awash in dual citizens, yes. It is wrong. It is wrong. You can't be loyal to both. You have to pick one. Gooey Gone Wild says, I've J-pilled so many gooeys in real life lately that I kind of feel like a superhero. Flex? Hell yeah. That's what's up. And you know, Gooey Gone Wild, there are many different people who have different things that they are susceptible to. Some people need to be jarred into thinking in a different way. Not me. I would not have responded well to that. Some people need to be, gradually convinced. So it does take all methods. I really, truly believe that. My method is to educate, to share information, and let the person decide for themselves. Some people respond to different things. Thanks for letting GDL and friends hang out. Absolutely. Even if there was one person in this chat, I would still be doing this. Some of these rabbi holes, Gooey Going Wild says, rabbi holes are so deep, you need a parachute to take the jump. Yeah, and you won't even hit the sides. Yeah. Okay, back to the text. Whiskey for the Red Dictators. Oh yeah, I know where this is going. The guy who was in the front here, let me show you his picture again. This guy here. Bronfman. Bronfman was running that whiskey across the Canadian border. Well, guess what? Guess what company came out of that? Seagram's. So from now on, when you see the company Seagram's, remember, it came out of this corrupt individual who has no interests of the United States at stake, who doesn't care about us, is loyal to Israel. He's a gangster, and he's a criminal. And that's where Seagram's comes from. Let's see here. Just checking the chat again real quick. Seems easy to J-pill by saying, do you see all the Jews? Did you not even know where they are? It's a little shocking. We don't even see them. Yes, the masters of blending in, masters of deception. Okay, let's get back to it. So we're about to hear the Bronfman connection with Seagram's as it pertains to the Soviet Union and the dictators there. Whiskey for the Red Dictators. Did Kenneth Bialkin or Myra Lansky-Boland or any of the other ADL officials who abetted Pollard, that means helped him, in his spy work know that the pilfered, stolen material was going to the KGB? Did they know? My sources point to yes. If anybody's ever had that old black magic 8-ball. My sources point to yes, motherfucker. The answer to that question has never been made public. To this day, only the players in the espionage operation know for sure. However, it is unquestionably the case that at the same time the ADL was knee-deep in the Pollard stew, top ADL officials were working hand in glove with the Soviet bloc intelligence services on several other projects that would have devastating consequences for the United States. One such ADL quote-unquote friend of Moscow was whiskey baron Edgar Bronfman. The third-generation Bronfmans had successfully transformed their father's Prohibition-era bootlegging business into a legit whiskey empire, Seagram's. This transformation had been aided early on by the U.S. Treasury Department, which cut a deal with Sam and Abe Bronfman, I think Sam was the old man, at the close of Prohibition, enabling them to pay several $1 million, a little kickback in quote-unquote back taxes, in return for a whitewashing of their decade of big-time crimes. So they had their boys in the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. Treasury has been under Jewish control for a century and a half. And they said, yeah, we'll whitewash your crimes for a little kickback. And now we see Seagrams as a reputable, upstanding member of the industrial community, I guess you could say. The Bronfman family came out of that deal as multi-millionaires with all their ties to the Lansky syndicate still intact. Abner Longy Zwillman was not the only Prohibition-era gangster who profited from the old saw, from rags to rackets to riches to respectability. By the 1950s, the Bronfman's image had been so cleaned up that Edgar could marry into the Our Crowd Loeb family. That's another Jewish banking family from the Kuhn, Loeb and Company. The Kuhns were Jewish, the Loebs were Jewish, and Jacob Schiff, the man who bought that company, who partnered in that company with Rothschild money, was also Jewish. And his sister Phyllis could marry Jean Lambert of the Belgian branch of the Rothschild clan. There you go. Well, just as soon as I mentioned Rothschild, there it is. Guys, I want to take a sec to look up that term saw, who profited from the old saw. I don't know what that means, so when I don't know what something means, I look it up. Bear with me. Now, of course, we know what a handsaw is, but what is there another definition? Let's see. What is the slang? Can't find it there, so I'm going to look it up and see if we can't find it there. Alright, here we go. Let's do it. Saw, informal, slang. What's a saw? Bear with me. If I can't find it, we'll head. Maybe dictionary.com has it. Idioms. Nope. Oh, wait. Simple past tense of see. We know that. Ah, there it is. It is a sententious saying, a maxim, or a proverb. So if we go back to the text, we can see. Pardon me. I'll get this right. The old saw. Okay. They profited from the old saw, and it's a saying, which is from rags to riches, from rags to rackets to riches to respectability. So there you go. We got a new saying. It's a new word, rather. It's a, pardon me. I'm new at this streaming stuff, so bear with me. So the origin of saw, a sententious saying, a maxim, or a proverb. Okay, we found it. Now, what the hell is sententious? You get started on this shit. Sententious is given to moralizing in a pompous or affected manner. So, when you act like you're above everything. Kind of like a certain sect of people do, huh? Like there's certain people who run the media that tell white people that we are immoral and we are racist and we are this and we are that, moralizing in a pompous or affected manner. Meanwhile, they are crooked as fucking can be. I like that word. I'm going to toss that out there one of these days. They're sententious reporting. Huh? How you like that? We learned a couple things right there. All right, let's get back to it. That's a nice 50-cent word, right? Yeah, thanks, Handsome Truth. We're learning here. We can't know everything. By the 1950s, the Bronfman's image had been cleaned up to the point they could marry into the Loeb family, and the sister Phyllis could marry Jean Lambert of the Belgian branch of the Rothschild clan. The Lambert family was the European connection in Drexel Burnham Lambert. That's new to me. A lot of people don't realize that Rothschilds have married into so many families that when they marry into, when a daughter of a Rothschild who bears the name Rothschild marries into another family, they then bear that other family's name, like Lambert, and they are an undercover Rothschild. Something to look for. That happens a lot. However, image polishing is one thing. Reality is another. As late as 1972, when your beautiful and handsome host, Tuil Schmiel, was born, don't tell anybody I'm that old, the Montreal, Canada Crime Commission had issued a report naming Mitchell Bronfman as a crime partner of one of the city's biggest gangsters, Willie Aubrant. These guys, this book is going to throw some names at you fast and furious, okay? So just hang in there, buckle up. Once again, as late as 1972, the Montreal, Canada Crime Commission had issued a report naming Mitchell Bronfman as a crime partner of one of the city's biggest gangsters, Willie Aubrant. That's a new name for us. We haven't heard that yet. The pair were implicated in dope smuggling. Willie and Mitchell owned a night spot in the middle of Meyer Lansky's turf in North Miami called the Pagoda North, which was a favorite hangout for Vito Genovese and other big-time hoodlums. Oh, forget about it. Edgar Bronfman, for his part, sought out some very peculiar clientele for his family's whiskey business. In 1986, as the Pollard affair was playing out, one of Edgar Bronfman's assistants at the World Jewish Congress, they are big time. The WJC is big time. Makes the ADL look like a little gang, small time. As the Pollard affair was playing out, one of Edgar Bronfman's assistants at the World Jewish Congress, parenthetically, Bronfman had taken over the WJC and turned it into an international arm of the ADL on whose national commission he sits. So one of Bronfman's assistants at the WJC established ties to the brutal communist regime in East Germany. Bronfman's Seagrams was made the exclusive distributor of booze to East Germany's ruling SED. So once again, we have Jewish communist ties. The Jews created communism, so it's only proper. In 1988, Edgar Bronfman himself traveled to East Berlin, where he was the guest of honor of SED boss Erich Honecker and top party official Hermann Axen. I told you they're going to throw names at you relentlessly, so buckle up. On that trip, Bronfman vowed that he would personally arrange for the East German leader to make a state visit to Washington, D.C. to meet with President Ronald Reagan. Interesting. Wait, weren't we told that Ronald Reagan brought down the wall? Wait, wait. It was old fuddy-duddy that took down the wall, right? Oh, but the one that introduced him to this East Berlin guy was a criminal, Bronfman. So we get to find out an extra truth here. Even 1 year later, with the Berlin Wall and East German communism about to collapse, Edgar Bronfman was back in East Germany again, this time promising to marshal the resources of the World Jewish Congress and the ADL to block the reunification of Germany, which he dubbed a quote-unquote sellout of socialism. In return for those efforts, Bronfman was given the highest civilian award offered by East Germany, the People's Friendship Medal in Gold. Isn't that nice? Isn't that special? What a humanitarian. Edgar's brother and business partner Charles was also a true friend of the Honecker dictatorship. I never heard about the Honecker dictatorship, so I'm learning too. As the head of the Canadian East German Friendship Society, he was able to control all passports and visas between the two countries. Ooh. So this criminal got to decide who got to go back and forth. But there was much more to the Bronfman East Germany liaison than a lucrative whiskey contract and a few medals. Let's check the chat right quick. Well, we're holding people. We've got 43 watching. That's good. I appreciate that. Izzy Cummins says they live. Guys, that movie, let me put you so you can see me. That movie, They Live. That old 80s movie where they put the glasses on. We all understand the symbolism there, and it's amazingly accurate. But did you know it's like probably the best fight scene ever? When the black dude refuses to put on the glasses, like we were talking, it takes a little bit. Everybody's got a different thing that they're susceptible to. Some people you can gently coax. Some people you got to beat over the head. Well, the white guy, Rowdy Roddy Piper, wanted the black dude. He's like, "You're crazy. I'm not putting on those fucking glasses." Well, he beat his fucking ass, and that is like the best fight scene. It's amazing. My man Blunt Man, who comes in here, he's the one that put me hip to that fight scene. He's absolutely right. Let's see, what else we got? OMAC is in. Can't find the quote now. Wiped away as if by magic. That's not the first time you'll see that. GDL United's most recent vid was some bullshit. I'll let you guys handle like that. I don't want any beef. But if someone is acting against the interests of the group, they should be put out there. What program? I use OBS, and I'm still learning. I'm really not that good at it yet. Gun Noob says what program? Goooooy, someone who's been here from the beginning. Yeah, that's why it was so long of a scene to show how it is, right? Yeah, maybe. It sometimes takes a battle to get someone to see the truth. There are some people who are unreachable, but I think it just takes the right tactic to make them see the truth. Some people want to think that it was their idea to see the truth. You know what I mean? Some people, it's hard to just keep beating them over the head with these facts. They want to think that it was their idea. And so if you drop little subtle hints, sometimes that's better with certain people. Let's see, Not a Bear. When they hack a TV broadcast to the nation, the hobo gets all mad for someone interrupting his TV watching. Not sure what that's in reference to. No one should ever trust Halsey, ever. I agree. That dude is, I don't like him one little bit. You're welcome, Gun Noob. I'm trying. I'm learning as I go. It's the way it is. Years ago, except late for supper. I like that. I always use that. Years ago, I saw a vid pointing out that the writing on the walls in the alien base looked like Hebrew. Oh, shit. I didn't notice that. I'll have to peep that out. Sometimes there is truth in Hollywood. Do you guys know who the director was? Was he Jewish or was he a goooooy? I'm not sure. Might have been a goooooy. If the director was a goooooy, then I would lean more towards, yes, this is definitely some serious symbolism. Yeah, freaky, right, goooooy? All right, let's get back to it. Where the hell am I? What do I got to click? Hey, talk about boomer tech. By the way, I'm not a boomer. I'm not even old enough to be a boomer. I think it was 1946 to 1964, 1965. I think they're boomers. My mother was born in 46, so she was front line boomer. She's like fucking avant-garde boomer. So let's see what we got here. The Palme affair, or the Palm affair, I'm not sure. Oh, look at that. On February the 28th, 1986, Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme was assassinated by a lone gunman on the streets of Stockholm. Never heard about that. Just before his assassination, Palme was in the process of cracking down on Swedish arms dealers who were funneling guns to the Nicaraguan Contras and to the Iranian regime. That Iran-Contra thing has connections all over the place. And like I was saying on my stream, just to give you this little tidbit, the brothers always used to tell me, man, they running drugs in our community. The government bringing these drugs in here. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. You're full of shit. Stop copping up, making excuses, right? You know what I mean? Stop fucking blaming other people. Guess what? The homies were right. I'll say it again. I'll say it whenever I have to. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And that Iran-Contra thing, Gary Webb, the reporter who wrote God, I got so much info in my mind. Dark Alliance. He wrote Dark Alliance, and he exposed that shit, and he got suicided for it. I actually brought up his autopsy photos in another video before this. He shot himself in the head twice, and the bullet wounds were right here. 1 and 2. If I'm going to shoot myself in the head, it's like this. Not like this, because that could slip and miss and just injure me. I'm going this way. Pow, can't miss. Who shoots themselves to commit suicide right here? Doesn't sound good. So yes, the government is bringing drugs in the communities, and yes, it is overwhelmingly in low-income communities, and yes, they happen to be more black than other income level communities, and yes, they were doing it in Vietnam, and they're doing it now in Afghanistan. They were doing it in the 80s. They are doing it and doing it and doing it. Wow. So, back to the text. So the Swedish Prime Minister was assassinated because he ruffled the wrong feathers, stepped on the wrong toes. He was cracking down on Swedish arms dealers who were funneling guns to the Nicaraguan Contras and to the Iranian regime. The Iran-Contra scandal had not... Wait, by the way, I don't accept that word scandal. I know I'm slipping off into tangents, but guys, the Iranian-Contra thing was not a scandal. It was a crime, right? A scandal is when you cheat on your wife and you bang that girl that you've always wanted at work. That's a scandal. It's not a crime. Scandal is not a crime. You'll see this in the media time and time again. Oh, the banking scandal. Oh, the drugs scandal. The scandal. No, it's criminal. They're trying to soften the effect of what the reality is. Don't let them fucking play your minds like that. So I'm going to reread that the proper way. Even the guy that wrote this, or the people who wrote this, fell for that. The Iran-Contra crime had not yet broken publicly, and Palme's probe threatened to blow the lid off on the entire covert program. Curiously, many of the guns being sold by the Swedes, hey, I guess the Swedes really did do it, huh? Look at this. You were on to something, HT9. The Swedes really did do it. The Iran-Contra crime had not yet broken publicly, and Palme's probe threatened to blow the lid on the entire covert program. Curiously, many of the guns being sold by the Swedes, with the collusion of Oliver North, CIA Chief William Casey, and the Israelis, by the way, William Casey was also suicided, were coming from East Germany and other Soviet bloc states. Was Palme in the process of unearthing a cynical East-West collusion, an even nastier reality buried beneath the then unknown Iran Gate scandal? You mean crime? Had he inadvertently stumbled onto the trail of the ADL's own involvement in this, demimonde of gun and drug dealing? Oh, demimonde. No, they didn't. I'm going to look up demimonde, but we got to guess what the definition could be at first. So let's look. Even nastier reality, had he inadvertently stumbled into the trail of the ADL's own involvement in this demimonde. So demi means halfway, right? Like a demigod is half human, half god. What could it mean? Anybody want to take a guess? What demimonde? Monde means world. Like in Spanish, monde or mundo. Mundo is world. So half world? All right, let's look it up. You guys want to take a guess? No guesses? Okay. 3, 2, 1, you're beat. We're looking it up. Demimonde. Let's check it out, guys. We're learning here. The class of women considered to be of doubtful morality and social standing. A group of people considered to be on the fringes of respectable society. Okay, there you go. So these are people who are probably of a lower morality, I guess we could say. Boy, they hit me with that word. That was a good word there. So had this guy who got shot, Palme, was he on the verge of revealing this East-West collusion with Iran Gate? By the way, if a guy got in trouble selling gates, would that be Gate? I'm just curious. Had he inadvertently stumbled onto the trail of the ADL's own involvement in this demimonde of gun and drug dealing? The answer to that question was at least implicitly given within days of the Palme assassination, when the ADL joined with the KGB and the East German Stasi, or State Security Service, in an effort to blame the Palme murder on Swedish associates of Lyndon LaRouche, the guy who was naming the Jew. So, they do dirty shit and then they blame it on their enemies. We've never seen that before, have we? No. ADL Fact-Finding Division Chief Erwin Sewell, who was mentioned many times before in the previous chapters, himself an Oxford University-trained active member of the Socialist Internationale. There you go, another Oxford reference. Think Rothschild when you hear Oxford. Personally flew to Stockholm to fuel the disinformation campaign linking LaRouche to the Palme murder. So, Pollard was found guilty of spying on the United States. The ADL was on the verge of being uncovered in being behind all this. There were other higher-ups who were on the verge of getting revealed and shown to be what they're doing. And then they started diverting. They started putting in the newspaper that Pollard just was an American loyalist, but he was just trying to help Israel a little. Then this guy gets shot. He was on the verge, possibly, of revealing some bigger shit. So they murder this guy, and then they pin it on their enemies. It's beautiful. You gotta admit, these devious, cunning motherfuckers use subterfuge and obfuscation to try to weasel out of this shit once again. Soviet Ambassador Boris Pankin, a major general in the KGB who specialized in planting disinformation in the Western press, directed the Soviet side of the LaRouche killed Palme hoax, while Georgy Arbatov, the head of the Soviet Academy of Sciences USA Canada Institute, added his voice to those accusing LaRouche. Yes, guys, they are going to throw some serious shit at you quickly. You can go back and watch this again and look each thing up individually if you're a nerd like me and you really want to absorb all this information. Ultimately, the Soviet government-owned TV network aired an hour-long quote-unquote docudrama elaborating the LaRouche lie. So they are spinning all this shit in their media. The role of Edgar Bronfman's pals in the East German Stasi in the Palme cover-up would not surface until 3 years later. However, back in August 1989, the Stockholm daily newspaper Expressen revealed that the Swedish police had bugged the home of a resident KGB agent and had audio tape evidence that the man knew at least 24 hours before Palme's murder that the Prime Minister would be killed. So they had, the Stockholm Swedish police had information that tied the KGB to this killing of this apparently, ostensibly, loyalist or patriot Swede who was trying to reveal what he found. He got killed. Not the first patriot to be killed. The pivotal role of the Stasi in the Palme murder cover-up was first revealed in the August 20th to 26th, 1992 edition of Journalisten, the magazine of the Swedish Journalists Association, which published an interview with a former top Stasi officer named Herbert Bremer. In that interview, and in a series of subsequent Swedish nationwide radio broadcasts, Bremer confessed that as an official of Department X, that's disinformation, of the Stasi, he had engineered the disinformation campaign blaming the ELP, or the European Labour Party, the Scandinavian affiliates of Lyndon LaRouche, for the Palme murder. So they're trying to frame Lyndon LaRouche and his followers. Quote, "At my desk, I drew up the outlines of how the ELP theory would be conduited," that means channeled, "into the Swedish police investigation. The plan was to have a national Swedish newspaper receive an anonymous telephone tip-off. Ellipses, there's something left out there. As an alternative, the information would go directly to one of the special tip-off phones made available by the police. The content would be along the lines that the caller, quote, knew that the ELP had committed the crime, unquote. Internal quotes. That's why you only got one little thing there instead of the two for the quotation, because it's a quote inside a quote. Sorry, I'm a nerd. Can't help it. In addition, he or she had, quote, witnessed hectic activity in the ELP headquarters in the night, unquote. Nothing was really true, but it sounded well-informed and credible, unquote. So this, again, that quote was from Bremer, this Bremer guy, when he was interviewed by Journalisten. And let's see, let's move on. We're almost ready for a chat check. Indeed, the 1986 Stasi-manufactured disinformation was conduited into the U.S. media through the ADL NBC TV. Through the ADL period. I missed that. NBC TV ran the story as a leading news item on their evening news broadcast, interviewing ADL official Sewell as part of their coverage. Ultimately, the U.S. Justice Department would use the Palme disinformation to justify a massive paramilitary police raid against LaRouche's home and offices of his associates in Leesburg, Virginia, in October 1986. We're going to do a chat check. So you see the tentacles spread far and wide. It's like the threads of a fabric. When you pull on one thread, it starts unraveling the whole thing. And you get to see the extent of the rabbit hole. So the rabbit hole doesn't just go straight down. It's got many side chambers off and connecting in different ways. It's madness. This book, I have to be honest, I haven't read it before. This book is blowing my mind, because a lot of the times when you're into this stuff, like we are, when you're into investigating, sometimes you learn a fact here and a fact here and a fact there, and they're disparate, they're separated, and you don't know that there may be connections. Then once in a while you learn something which connects facts together, and you're like, oh, I get it, I see how all this connects. And that's what this book is doing for me. I'm learning a ton, and I'll probably have to go back and restudy this book when I'm done, because there's just so much information being piled up on you at once. It's overwhelming, but amazing. This book is amazing. By the way, it's mysterious who wrote this book. It's written by this EIR, which is a collection of journalists. So it was kind of anonymously written, which is understandable when you see the power wielded by the ADL. All right, let's check the chat. Goooooy Gone Wild has a short little video on the Swedish JQ. All right, Goooooy Gone, for anybody in here who's making content related to this subject, let me know. Hit a 1, and I'll give you guys a link drop. All right, because it's important that we all make some type of content. In my opinion, not everybody's gonna make content. It's not for everyone, but it's very important. So, Goooooy Gone Wild. I'm gonna drop you. Let's see, Goooooy Gone Wild. Make sure this is you. Okay, that's you. I'm going to be dropping Goooooy Gone Wild here. Let me get some. We all should promote each other. And thank you to HT9 for promoting me. I wouldn't even have 40 views if it wasn't, for you. So thank you. And thanks for anyone else that promotes me as well. That's Goooooy Gone Wild. if we all support each other, it'll be amazing. You're welcome. Absolutely. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, if and when I ever get donations, I'm going to recycle them. Not all of them. I could use a couple of dollars, but whether or not, like you hear a lot of guys saying, thanks for all the donations. I couldn't do this without you. I couldn't, and maybe they couldn't, but I could. And I would. I still would be doing this regardless if anybody gave me $1. But I think we should all set up Patreon accounts, okay? And whatever money you get in, put another 50% of that into people that you know are legit. And if you've been watching them a while, don't just give money to anybody. I would advise you do what you want with your money, but make sure you vet them first, right? Make sure they're not out there giving GDL a bad name by saying we should put them all in ovens and all that kind of crazy shit. Support people. Then that way, we all promote each other's channel. We all support each other financially. And it could be amazing, the boost we could give each other. All right, so who else do we have that's making... Not a Bear says 0.5. All right, well, I'm going to give you incentive and drop your channel link. Let's see. Not a Bear, okay? If you're not a bear, what are you, brother or sister? Says, I'm a human, damn it. Not a bear. Let me... Okay, I see you. Is that an eyeball? That's freaky looking thumbnail there. Okay. Not a bear. There you are. You guys will all sub to each other and will support each other who are making content. It's important. I'm drinking good OJ at Mile High. What'd Mile High say? Somebody agrees. Typical criminal government. I absolutely believe that Clinton earned his selection as president because of his involvement. The Bushes and Clintons worked together. Amen. Amen. Right on the fucking money. Yes, he was selected. Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. And as I mentioned before, the Rhodes Scholarship was set up by Cecil Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes is the guy who worked for Lord Rothschild in England. He's the guy that went to South Africa and started a country called Rhodesia. Rhodes. Rhodesia. R-H-O-D-E. Rhodesia. So it's known now as Zimbabwe. But he was the one running the gold mines and the diamond mines. When you hear De Beers diamonds, think Cecil Rhodes. And that's who started the Rhodes Scholarship. The Rhodes Scholarship selects people. So Clinton was selected, and he was taken and brought into London to study. I don't know how many years, maybe 4 or 6 years. And the movie American Made. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I've just been missing the chat. But Clinton is definitely selected. And when you said he worked with the Bushes, all right, you guys know Clinton passed NAFTA, right? Everybody says, fucking Clinton, he fucking passed NAFTA. This is why I'm not Republican or Democrat, because they're both together on sleazy shit. They both disagree. They put on a picture, a fake little charade for the American people. Oh, we disagree about gay rights. We disagree about abortion. But when it comes to war for Israel, they both agree. When it comes to bailouts for the banks, they both agree. When it comes to all this shit that is really important, they're in total lockstep agreement. All right? So don't buy this idea that the Democrats and the Republicans are all fighting. They're doing this arguing about the Supreme Court guy. Believe me, he's getting in, and they both want him in. This whole sexual thing is a charade. Or as the English say, a charade. But back to NAFTA, Clinton passed it. But who wrote it under whose leadership? That's right. George Bush. The Bushes, it was written under the Bushes, the Bush administration. And the Clinton administration passed it. They were working hand in glove. Absolutely right, Mile High. No question. Yes. Everybody that leans right, except Late for Supper, went off about NAFTA. And they're right. NAFTA is a fucking disaster for this country. But don't believe the hype that NAFTA was opposed by the Republicans. That's just lip service for the stupid goooooy, for the mouth-breathing public not to say anything bad about your dad, because I fell for the lies too. It's easy to. You watch that Talmud vision. And NAFTA destroyed this country. Do you know the reason why the Mexicans are pouring in here? NAFTA. NAFTA allowed our corporations to take government-subsidized corn and dump it and flood the Mexican market with it. It put out of work hundreds and thousands of people. And with nothing to do there work-wise, they put out all their farmers like they did to us. You remember Handsome Truth had a video on the other night about our farmers? They were put out of work because of this NAFTA. They were put out of work because of the bond schemes that I went over the other night in this very book. Absolutely 100% truth. NAFTA destroyed this country, and it's still destroying this country. All right, Mass One, let's see. Primordial, I guess you never read Henry Ford's book, The International Jew. We've all been made scared to talk about the Jew. Let me see, make sure that is the right comment. If you guys are serious about spreading the message, a few guys need to tone things down a bit. Yes, I agree. A few guys, as a former indoctrinated sheep, people get put off by the Jew. Thank you. I agree 100%. You can't go hard all the time. I think we need to come to this with respect. We need to come with a little tact, a little diplomacy, and we need to come in nice and soft, right? We need to. That's my technique. I don't go off about filthy Jews and all that. I will say Jew, but I don't say it in a nasty way. I don't say it in a pejorative sense. Okay? It's not wrong to say the word Jew. I used to think that, Jew was a bad word. But Jewish people are Jews. There's nothing wrong with saying that. But yes, we need to come to this. Normies do not like to hear, overwhelmingly, do not like to hear this Jew, because as you pointed out in your second comment, that we have been conditioned to react in a Pavlovian manner, like Goy Gone Wild says, in a Pavlovian manner to anything even remotely negative about the Jews, to write you off immediately and to shut you down. In their mind, they will never listen to you. And so I don't think it's good going into chats and bombarding them with Jew. If it were me and we were going to do raids, of course, like I said, I don't call the shots at the GDL. I can only suggest things. My method would be to go in there, and if you've got 200 or 300 guys, and 100 of them don't mind putting up $2 or $5 for a super chat, right? And everybody bombarded them instead of hateful sounding things. But with, let's say we were going on a raid, and we have 200 or 300 people ready to go on a raid. We all agree on one thing that we want that creator of that YouTube channel to do. Let's say, please do a show on the USS Liberty. Leave it up to them how they want to spin it, how they want to do it. Say a guy's got 30,000 subs. We go in there and we go with a $2 super chat. But we've got 200 people. The guy's going to get $400. If we are unsuccessful, so what? You lost $2 You can't even buy a pack of bubble gum with $2, right? $5. What are you going to get? A pack of bubble gum and a soda? What is that? It's shit. It's chump change. It's nothing. But it has the possibility of actually getting 30, 40, 100,000 people to hear something about the USS Liberty. Most of them, I guarantee you, never heard anything about the USS Liberty. And so that is the way we can get people. You get more flies with honey than you do with shit. Now, it's not for me to criticize any previous methods. It sounds like Handsome Truth is coming around to the idea of just going Jew is not good, And it isn't. It's going to drive people away in droves, if you ask my opinion. If you go into there and you've got 100 people all giving $2, the guy's going to listen, and if he doesn't do the show against the USS Liberty, he's going to look like a jackass in front of most of his viewers. All right? I think flies do like shit, though, Gun Noob says. Yeah, they love it, man. They're on it. So, look, a lot of good points here in the chat. We should have some tact, some diplomacy. We should come at it with some sensitivity and understand that, like he says, when he was a normie, he wouldn't have responded well to this negative shit. Neither would I. My red pill story is this. I was a hardcore Republican, and 9/11 happened. Granted, I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know anything about the political parties, but my family voted Republican, and so I became Republican. It's like I inherited it. 9/11 happened, and I hated Arabs. I wanted to kill all Arabs. I didn't know or care if they had anything to do with 9/11. So when 2003, the Iraq war came, I was all for it. I was like, yeah, go kill those motherfuckers. Kill everybody. 2008 comes. I'm in a chat. Back then, YouTube allowed private messages, and they were unlimited. We were sending each other chats this fucking long. We were sending each other private messages back and forth. Me and this guy from Egypt. And I'm telling him how we're going to go there and kill every last one of you. And you motherfuckers, you're going to get it next. And when we're done with Iraq, we're coming there. And he kept responding with all kind of facts. And I was struck by his patriotism. He kept saying, I'm in the Egyptian Air Force. And we'll fucking defend our shit to the death. You may kill us, but we're not going to fucking stop until we fight. I was impressed with that, begrudgingly. I'm like, I'm trying to ignore the things he's saying. Then I made the mistake, or actually is a good thing. I said to myself, I'm going to go through this last private message he sent me, and I'm going to debunk all this shit he's telling me about Israel. He's telling me all the shit that Israel did to the Palestinians. Back then, I looked at Palestinians as low-life scumbag terrorists, just like the media told me to think. And I, point by point, I didn't get past the first point. I was going to break everything down and send him this long private message where I could beat my chest and say, yeah, fucking pwned, dude. Guess what? He pwned me. Because every fucking point by point I went through, I was like, Israel started in 1948 by terrorists who blew up the King David Hotel? Huh? And I'm having all this cognitive dissonance. I'm like, it can't be true. It can't be. When I got done with his whole message, I had a whole different outlook. But I was embarrassed. How do I come back to this guy? I was just going to ignore that he sent that to me at all and just say, fuck it, and just disappear. Never comment to him again. But that didn't sit well with me. Or I could come back and act like I never heard anything that he was really saying to me and say, and just ignore and just keep attacking him. Well, fuck you, we're going to kill you anyway. But I took a third route, and I decided to say, my man, I'm sorry. That was tough. I was so indoctrinated. That was so tough. This was a red pill that I couldn't barely get it in my mouth to swallow it. No jokes there, guys. I took the red pill. But it was so embarrassing that I had to come back and say to this guy, I'm sorry. And I knew in my heart he wasn't going to forgive me because of all the terrible things I said. And I knew that he was going to tell me to go fuck off anyway. But I sent him a long private message from the heart, a heartfelt, honest message that said, I'm so sorry. I love the fact that you're a patriot. You've taught me a new way of looking at things, and from now on, I'm going to investigate everything. And lo and behold, this guy came back, and he took the high road. He said, that's okay. I forgive you. What? He forgave me. Guess what? It's been 10 years. I still talk to him now and again on Facebook. And I thank him to this day. You can see in my face how I feel about that. It was so amazing. So never give up on people. Never give up on even the most brainwashed people. In my case, it took a hammer. I guess it did take a hammer. you know, because I took the time. I'm a nerd, so I had to read his whole message, and that was it. That was my undoing. And ever since then, I investigate everything. I hold opinion off until I'm sure about things. And that's the way I approach it, man. I love that guy. His name was Islam Muhammad. He's from Alexandria, Egypt. He's on Facebook, if you ever wanted to look him up. And the guy is amazing. He's an amazing patriot for his country. He's knowledgeable. And he red-pilled the fuck out of me. All right. Yeah, thanks, Handsome Truth. That's a true story. That's the way I got red-pilled on the Jewish question. And he changed my fucking life. He completely changed my life. All right, sorry about the tangent, but these are important things to know, both about me. He's got the hammer. It's important to know about where I come from and all these things that connect with what we're learning here. Okay, so where are we? We're on Not a Bears channel. You guys, check those links out to the people who are making content. Check those out. All right. So where are we? So we got this comment that was put into the Swedish media, right? And it says, indeed, the 1986... Oh, we stopped here, the ADL and the OSI. But just a quick recap. The U.S. Department of Justice, or the U.S. Department of Injustice, would use the Palme disinformation to justify a paramilitary raid against LaRouche's home and offices in America. Not charged with any crimes, mind you. No fucking warrants, or maybe they did receive a warrant, but in America, in Leesburg, Virginia, they raided the guy's offices. I don't care if the guy was wrong or if he was hateful. You don't fucking do that to American people. All right, the ADL and the OSI. The LaRouche killed Palme hoax was no isolated instance of Edgar Bronfman and the ADL teaming up with a communist secret police agency to target a political enemy or ply a lucrative business scam. It was standard operating procedure. Give me a sec. I got to turn this AC down. Okay. The LaRouche killed Palme hoax was no isolated instance of Edgar Bronfman and the ADL teaming up with a communist secret police agency to target a political enemy or ply a lucrative business scam. It was standard operating procedure. According to syndicated columnists Roland Evans and Robert Novak, on January the 23rd, 1989, Bronfman hosted a secret meeting at his New York City penthouse to forge what the columnists dubbed a Jews for grain deal between the Soviet Union and Israel. I think at that time, the Soviet Union did not allow citizens to leave, and that's what Israel wanted, apparently. Also present at the gathering was Dwayne Andreas, the chairman of the Archer Daniels Midland Grain Cartel, a long-standing ally and financial backer of the ADL. Incidentally, the ADM, Archer Daniels Midland, is part of the conglomerate of cartels that helped put those farmers out of business that HT was showing the other night. Let's see, and these guys, ADM, were long-standing allies and financial backers of the ADL. The Wall Street Journal had dubbed Andreas as Gorbachev's closet pal in the West. He's out of the closet now, ain't he? At congressional hearings, Andreas identified former ADL National Chairman Ben Epstein as the man who taught him all he knew about politics. The Bronfman-Andreas deal was straightforward. In return for vast quantities of dirt-cheap grain from ADM and other U.S.-based grain cartels, the Soviet government would permit the mass exodus of Soviet Jews to Israel. It was an updated version of the Pollard espionage affair in which U.S. military secrets were swapped for controlled Soviet Jewish migration to Israel. See, look at that. You can't even get them to go to Israel. They got to force them, apparently. The invariant in the two efforts, the thing that did not change, was the central role of the ADL. As part of the Bronfman-Andreas deal, the Soviet KGB teamed up with the ADL and Bronfman's World Jewish Congress to foment, or to create, a diplomatic breach between the Reagan administration and Austrian President Kurt Waldheim, the former Secretary General of the United Nations. The KGB manufactured and the ADL-WJC conduited phony evidence that Waldheim had been a top Nazi war criminal during World War II. U.S. Attorney General Ed Meese, still employing the legal services of ADL fellow traveler Leonard Garnett, bit on the forged material and declared Waldheim persona non grata. That means we don't like your ass in the United States. Let me check the chat real quick. Let's see. Handsome Truth says, great story, thank you. Mile High says, thanks for sharing your wake-up story. I think we all should do that. You're right. Maybe if we all told our red pill story, maybe we should all get together and post a quick video of how you got red pilled. Now we can watch all these stories and decide what common thread we see in all these red pill stories, and then tailor our approach along those lines. It's a great idea, Mile High. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys would throw up a quick video, you don't even have to be on camera, about how you got red pilled, that would be a fucking fabulous idea. Truth Bites. Truth Bites says, I knew that shit when I was 5, that the people throwing the rocks were the ones that were oppressed. You're a rare 5-year-old, my friend. See, that was the problem with me, is I'm so loyal to what I believe in that it was hard to break me out of that. You know, it took something like that to break me out, to realize I was wrong. Thank God I went the right way. War is a Racket by General Butler. Goku. You can find that on my channel. I narrated that as well. I did parts 1 and 2. I still have yet to do part 3. As a matter of fact, part 1 is the video with the most views that I have. So you guys can hear that if you don't have the time to read, or you're just not a big fan of reading. England and France helped Israel attack Egypt in the 70s. Yes, the Levant affair, isn't that right? Egyptian president was naming the Jew. Yeah, of course. Like, say we went into someone's chat with 200 people and everybody put a $2 super chat in, and all the message says is, please do a video on the Levant affair, or please do a video on the USS Liberty. Whether they name the Jew or not in the video, the facts of the story will be enough to red pill at least a portion of their audience. And if they don't do the video, then they're going to look like a jackass in front of their people. Even if they don't do the video, a good portion of the people in the chat are going to say, what's the Levant affair? What's the USS Liberty? And the curious among them are going to look it up themselves. So I think it's a good idea that we go with this honey instead of the hammer. You know, try to convince these people with love. Go in there, and it's so what? A guy gets $400 and we fail. We're still going to red pill a portion of them, and it only costs each of us $2 I think we should try, at least give it a try. I'll be down with a raid like that. I'll even put $5 in. I'll be a big spender. Alright, so I had to restart my router. Sucks when that happens. Sheckelson says 9/11 was his red pill. As soon as you accept and acknowledge that you live under Jewish supremacy, everything else is going to start making sense. Yes. I went also on a search. So I got red-pilled on Israel, but then I red-pilled myself on money. I asked myself back in 2008, what is money? Where does money come from? What is this little piece of paper in my pocket? And how did it get there? And that took me on a journey. I did not know I was going to end up in the same place as the Israel thing. But guess where it ended up? Back to the same old people. Things started connecting, and I was off to the races. The money thing, incidentally, is after 10 years of looking into this stuff, after 10 years of educating myself, is the number one question, the number one thing. Number one, because everything else follows from there. If you cut their ability to make credit out of nothing and get interest on it, the wheels start falling off. It'll take a while, but the wheels will start falling off. And campaign finance reform. Those two, if you could do those simultaneously, it'd be amazing. The money system is something they don't want us talking about. Absolutely. The Jews say Jesus is boiling in excrement. Yeah, that's hardcore. Awareness with honey. Charles Thompson, Mayor Jr., says that might be a good idea. Oh, Late for Supper says Dad had been trying to red pill him all this time, and now it's clicking. Good. So he planted seeds that you didn't know were going to sprout and grow. That's another idea. These, like if you go in the chat and say, go look up the Lavon affair, that's a seed planted. You don't know if it's going to get watered for 10 years, but it'll grow. Federal Reserve usury. Okay, guys. This is going over a little longer than I wanted to, but this is a good stream, man. I'm getting some good ideas from the chat. I get to share my stories, and that's what it's all about. The purpose of the smear job was to shut down Austria as a way station for Soviet Jews coming out into the West. In the past, once Soviet Jews landed on Austrian soil, they were granted political refugee status, which then enabled them to settle in any country of their choosing, and the majority either stayed in Western Europe or found their way to the United States. Very few went to Israel voluntarily. What's that tell you? With Austria shut down, Bronfman and Gorbachev worked out alternative routes through Warsaw Pact states and eventually set up direct flights from the Soviet Union to Israel to ensure that the Soviet refugees had no choice as to where they would live. So prior to this, refugees, a lot of them would go to Austria. Austria had a law in place that they could go wherever they want after they became a citizen. And most of them chose to go stay in Europe or go to the United States. And Bronfman and his boys weren't having it. They wanted to build Israel up. But even the Jews themselves didn't want to go to Israel. And so they had to force them with their trickery and their subterfuge. By the time Bronfman and Andreas forged their Jews for grain deal with Gorbachev in early 1989, the ADL had just about perfected the use of forged KGB documents to smear the entire Eastern European community in the United States as closet wartime Nazis. Whew! You guys notice that the most red-pilled countries in Europe right now are the former Eastern Bloc countries. Closet Nazis, they say. As early as 1979, the ADL had played a pivotal role in getting legislation through the United States Congress, establishing the Office of Special Investigations, OSI, a special Nazi hunting unit inside the criminal division of the Justice Department. The ADL asset, Representative Elizabeth Holtzman. What nationality does that sound like? Or what religious? What does that sound like, Holtzman? Had sponsored the bill of Central European and Ukrainian descent of their constitutional rights. She sponsored the bill which effectively stripped naturalized American citizens of Central European and Ukrainian descent of their constitutional rights by providing for automatic denaturalization and deportation without due process if the OSI could produce evidence that they had been tied to the Nazis during World War II. Meanwhile, the United States put into place Operation Paperclip, which brought real Nazis here. So there's no hypocrisy there. None. And where did the lion's share of this evidence come from 40 years after the end of World War II? from the Soviet archives. We can trust them. The ADL-sponsored OSI provided Moscow with a foot in the door to the American judicial system. For the first time ever, Soviet documents and witnesses were given full standing in U.S. court proceedings. No questions asked. While a handful of the people targeted by the ADL/OSI may have been low-level Nazi sympathizers or assets during the war, many innocent people fell victim to the KGB's sophisticated forgers, courtesy of the ADL and their friends at the Justice Department's OSI. See, the KGB was staffed with people who are just like the ADL. And so is our CIA and FBI. Karl Linus, falsely accused of Nazi collaboration, was stripped of his American citizenship and shipped off to the Soviet Union, where he died in a prison, reportedly from a heart attack. Sherem Subsukov, we heard of him earlier, accused of working with the Nazis in his native Belarusia, beat the OSI and even won a lucrative out-of-court libel suit against the New York Times. Good for you. He was then murdered by a JDL bomb attack in his Paterson, New Jersey home in 1985. Jesus Christ. So you can't beat them one way, and you beat them lawfully and the right way, they take you out the dirty way. It might be it's their last gasp chance of taking you out, but they have no problem exercising that option. Sorry to hear that. Dr. Arthur Rudolph, a celebrated German-American rocket scientist who contributed greatly to America's space program, was falsely accused by the ADL and OSI of torturing Jews at the Peenemünde research facility in wartime Germany. Rather than lose his lifetime pension with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, and throw his family into poverty, he renounced his U.S. citizenship, how sad, and returned to West Germany. A 3-year probe based on the same evidence passed on by the East German and Soviet authorities to the OSI. West German prosecutors concluded that there was no evidence against Dr. Rudolph. It's terrible. Guys, you remember we went over Jim Trafficant the other night when we did, who did we do? McKinney, Cynthia McKinney, and we did Jim Trafficant as examples of congresspeople who spoke out. Well, this is the guy that he helped to free. Unfortunately, they don't mention Trafficant in this book, but he was the guy who went to Israel, beat the Israeli Supreme Court's decision to put him to death, and flew home with him next to him in a plane. And that's why Jim Trafficant was most likely suicided, because he beat them, and not only did he beat them, but he rubbed their fucking faces in it. Like a true American. That guy was a real American. John Demaniuk, a Ukrainian-American retired auto worker. So this guy's an American citizen. Accused of being the Treblinka concentration camp mass murderer Ivan the Terrible, was stripped of his citizenship and hauled off to Israel to stand trial. So here he is, an American citizen, having nothing to do with this Ivan the Terrible, working hard in America, in the auto business, and he gets stripped of his American citizenship and hauled off to Israel to stand trial and thrown in prison. Guys, this should sicken every American when you hear shit like this. And if we ever hear anything like this, we need to stand up and speak out. Use whatever platform you have. It was the biggest show trial since the proceedings against Adolf Eichmann, broadcast in its entirety live on Israeli national television. Demaniuk was convicted and sentenced to death by hanging. This was blood sport. This was revenge porn. This was red meat for the audience. Disgusting. Through unflagging efforts by his family and friends, Jim Trafficant being among them and prominent among them, Demaniuk eventually gathered evidence showing that the OSI had suppressed evidence proving that another man had been identified as the real Ivan. Look at that. The case is now pending before both the Israeli Supreme Court and the U.S. 6th District Court of Appeals in Cincinnati, Ohio. Jim Trafficant was a congressman from Ohio. And I guess since this was written in the 90s, it was still pending. You'll have to take my word for it. Jim Trafficant beat them. That man was a bad motherfucker. Coming up to the end, guys, wrapping it up. The ADL's liaison to OSI, Elliot Wells, in a signed letter to the editors of the Washington Post, demanded that Demaniuk not be set free. Wow. Elliot Wells, you fucking piece of shit. They would rather put an innocent man to death and feed the red meat to their rabid audience than to let the man have justice. He demanded in a signed letter to the editors of the Washington Post, and I'm sure they immediately put that up as an editorial, unquestioningly. He demanded that he not be set free. That should trouble every one of us. Using the kind of stilted logic that would make the KGB blush, Wells argued that even if Demaniuk is innocent of the Treblinka charges, he must be guilty of some other war crimes and therefore should be held in custody until new evidence can be manufactured. I don't know about you guys, but that makes me sick. If that can happen to one American citizen, it can happen to any of us. And that was before the Patriot Act. That was before the NDAA or whatever they call it, where all the president has to do is say you're a terrorist and you lose all your rights. And they could just grip you up, throw you, they can rendition you. Do you know that under the Patriot Act, your house can be broken into and items can be stolen? All they need to do is go to a secret FISA court and get a warrant without anyone knowing it, without bringing you to a trial, without you reading your rights. They can go, not only go and spy on you, take your phone records, look online and see everything you're doing online. Not only can they break into your house and steal your personal effects, violating the Fourth Amendment, but they can take you. You could disappear one day and nobody will know where you are. They'll say, oh, what happened to Shmuel? I don't see him anymore. He's not around. Then they'll find things to say. Well, maybe he was depressed and he killed himself. Let me tell you, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm going to fight till my fucking dying breath. I'm going to fight. So if you see something's happened to me, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I did it in the shower. It wasn't me. It wasn't fucking me. They can take you, abduct you, run you to another country, and torture you. This is the America we're living in, and it's because of these ADL types. It's because of these Mossad, CIA, KGB spooks that we have this. That we have to live under tyranny, the home of the free, the land of the brave. It's all a pipe dream, guys. I don't mean to be a pessimist. I'm an optimist because I think we can turn it around. But it needs to be pointed out so it sinks in people's brains what is going on in this country. It's terrifying. So let's see. If I wrote a couple things down that I wanted to talk about. Let's see if I can find them. I don't know, but we did cover a few of them. How about that? They're gone. Maybe somebody broke in and stole them. Let's see. A little bit about the occult stuff. There's a lot of talk about... it's interesting. Like the girl whose channel was promoted earlier tonight on HT9. It's interesting stuff. And there are some things about 33 and all this. However, I think it diverts our energies in a direction which ultimately is not useful. It's fun, it's interesting, it's cool, but the main problem is you could, that time you spend looking into the occult, you could be looking into real life things like this. Real life things that have happened in the past that we could prevent in the future. Now, if the occult stuff was predictive, then I would say it's extremely valuable. If we could look at some occult signs and predict the next tragedy, if we could look in there and predict the next war, then it would be of great use. But what you'll notice about the occult stuff is that it's only a hindsight thing. So in other words, 9/11 happens, and then people go back and say, well, where were the stars on the horizon? Well, if you go to Israel and you look, then you could see that the towers were falling. But that's hindsight. Nobody looked before the towers came down and said, hey guys, we got this thing. The stars are going to be in such a position that it predicts towers coming down. Maybe it's the World Trade Center. We don't have any theory that does not have predictive ability is not a good theory at all. You can't use it to predict things. So if you could say, you know, according to the position of the stars, or I see 33s over here, whatever it is, and you could predict things, that's useful. But even if you could predict it, then they would just change their plans and do something else. Like this predictive programming thing is popular now. We go back, and it's in hindsight that we see the towers burning, or we see a plane going into the towers in that movie. That one movie, or that series that was on TV, that did give me a chill. But at the time, people didn't watch that series and say, hey, this is a sign that our towers are going to be attacked. It doesn't have any predictive ability. It's only after the fact that we can say, hey, did you know there was this series where they flew the fucking plane in the building? So nobody watches TV and says, hey, we can predict this tragedy. It doesn't have predictive value. And unfortunately, it just doesn't. And besides that, when anybody paints a picture of New York on the magazine or whatever, the Twin Towers are iconic. They're gonna naturally be in every fucking thing that's drawn with New York. If you look at pictures or drawings of New York before the Twin Towers, what was prominent in the skyline? The Empire State Building. Okay, were they predicting anything? No. It's the number one attracting thing to the eye on the New York skyline, the whole city line skyscape. And the same was true with the towers. So I don't think the occult has any predictive value. It's interesting, though, to see what Jewish people do believe with the Kabbalah and all, but I don't think it's useful to waste our energies in that direction. JF. Oh my God, JF. I was subscribed to JF prior to this because I've heard some snippets from him about him, being somewhat red-pilled about the Jewish thing. And, bankers and all that shit. And, he's a smart guy. I don't like his cockiness. That was the only thing I didn't like. I thought he's full of himself. He really loves him some him. You know what I mean? So that turns me off about him. But to hear, it's bad enough to marry someone just to come into another country and to use that person. Unless it's a prearranged deal where the person knows you're marrying them just for the green card and you offer them some money or something. I'm cool with that. Two consenting adults can do whatever the fuck they want. But when you're going to marry a mentally disabled person and use them like that, that is fucking sickening. That is sickening. It's inexcusable. And I wanted to vomit when I heard that. I unsubbed so fast. I pulled out so fast that his guts came out with it. Pollard. We already talked about Pollard, the spy. The proper approach in chats. We already talked about that. I call it the honey raid. Where we come in, we give them money, and everybody has the same message, which is key. Because if everybody comes in and says, U.S. Liberty, 9/11, the person's head is spinning. Maybe a few people will get red-pilled that way. But it's abrasive, and it makes us look like assholes, in my opinion. And coming in and thumbing the videos or the chat down, I don't think that's right, man. I don't think you're going to win any friends over. So my thing would be to come into the chat, thumb it up, and everybody tosses out a $2. We can make it short enough that it could be $2. Or a $5 if you want to be a big spender. Send them $5 if you have a couple more words. But we should all have the same message. If you take the same message and amplify it over 200 people, that's powerful. If you got 200 people coming in and say, please do a special on USS Liberty, that has fucking power. I think that could be popular. Mile High came up with a great idea. We should all make a video of our red pill moment and share it. Just put it out there. You don't have to be on film. See how old I am. You don't have to be on video. You can just put up a picture of something and tell the red pill story. Tell your story. I want to hear it. Other people want to hear it. And we can find a common thread in all these stories. Imagine 200 videos of my red pill story on the JQ. Some of them are going to be kind of bland. Some people already were hip. But there are going to be some that are going to be really interesting. And maybe we could see a common thread that can help us tailor our message to those who have not been red-pilled yet. Thank you very much, Mile High. Proper approach in chats. JDL and GDL and labels. I already talked about labels. I don't like a label. I don't even use the GDL label, to be honest. It doesn't mean anything. If you guys consider me part of GDL, that's fine. It's not for me to sort of invite myself. But our interests coincide, and that's what matters to me. So, if it allows people to paint you, I think we should have some kind of name, though. But if people said, oh, the GDL, they're all a bunch of fucking anti-Semites and racists, I could say, listen, I don't adopt that label. I'm a free agent, right? And I think everybody should be a free agent. No, don't adopt labels of Republican, Democrat, any of that. Not even independent, because people could say, well, independents believe X, and you're an independent, so you must believe X. It allows simpletons to paint you. Oh, well, you're a conservative. That means you hate gay people, you hate black people, you hate this, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're a liberal, so you hate white people, and you hate this, and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not either. I'm a free agent. I reserve the right to change my mind on any single issue. And I take it issue by issue. So I think every issue is its own island. And so when you join a group and you say conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, then you tend to agree on down the line with every issue. Or if you don't, you tend not to speak against it. When you're a free agent, I reserve the right to thank you. Thanks, Mile High. I reserve the right to attack any fucking issue I want. So if I'm a Republican and I say, you know what? I don't agree with X, Y, or Z. And all the other Republicans say, well, you're not a real Republican, and then they start fighting. I'm not down with all that simpleton shit. You know? Every issue on its own merits. What else we got? What is fighting, right? We want to fight. We were talking about maybe squaring off with my man Halsey. I would like to myself. But this is real fighting, what we're doing here, right? Age has taught me that the pen really is mightier than the sword. I was always a hothead, and I always wanted to square off. People would push my buttons, and it's easy to get me to react in a Pavlovian manner. All it took was a look or the wrong thing, and I'm ready to fucking scrap. That's not good. I have since reeled that in, and it's been easier with age. It wasn't easy when I was in my 20s. It wasn't easier when I was 19 or 18. Hot-headed, ignorant, and ready to fight at a moment's notice. People could easily control me. Now, I'm in control of me. All right? I decide if I want to get angry. Nobody's going to do that to me. Nobody can just put up something in a chat and say something about me, and I'm going to react in some way. Now my heart's beating fast, and I'm angry, and that person did that to me. Now they're in control of me. No, sir. I am in control of me. That's why I've gravitated towards stoicism. Again, I don't take the label stoic, but I do gravitate towards stoicism. This is a little coin I bought, and I bought my friend one too. We both keep these. It's a reminder, memento mori. Remember death. Remember that you're mortal. Remember you only have so much time on this earth. Don't let someone trigger you on minor shit or even major shit. Life has some serious hurdles, and we don't need to get all excited about little shit. Just breathe, take your time, think, don't react emotionally, and try to control yourself. The opposite side says, you could leave life right now. At any time, any one of us can pass away. And I really believe that it's important to keep the big picture in mind and not think short term. Make sense? And Satan versus Lucifer. I'm going to get that. We've already gone long here. But there's a difference between Satan and Lucifer. And put it this way. Albert Pike is the one that red-pilled me on Lucifer. All right? So I read the entire 1,000-page plus Morals and Dogma. And it is the most abstruse, weird, ununderstandable, incomprehensible shit that you've ever read. So you take your time with it, you read a sentence, and you stop and think, what does that mean? It took me forever to read the fucking thing. But there's a line in there when he says, is it he who brings the light, son of the morning, Lucifer? Doubt it not. And so all the people who are religious and have a Christian mindset, they say, Satan, Lucifer. They are Satan worshippers. They worship Lucifer. No. I'll bring it up in another one. I'll bring up proof of what I'm saying. Venus, the planet Venus, is called the son of the morning. Venus's other name is Lucifer. Okay? So why would they worship a planet? Well, they don't worship it in the sense of a god. But if you remember the story of Lucifer, Lucifer was said to challenge God's power. If you look at, the ancients looked at, and maybe even the Templars and shit like that, I'm not sure. But the sun for many, many ancient religions was God. The all-powerful God. You'll see in the Bible that when you look at God directly, your eyes burn out. No one can look at God directly. It's the sun, okay? In the night sky, aside from the moon, Lucifer is the brightest thing. They called it a star, right? But it's really a planet. It's Lucifer. Back in the day, the church said that the earth was the center of the universe and that the sun went around us. It's the most natural thought in the morning. In the morning, the sun comes up, it goes down. It does a Bill O'Reilly. Sun goes up, sun goes down, tides come in, tides come out. Never a miscommunication. That fucking jackass, Bill O'Reilly. Don't get me started. But the church would set people on fire if you suggested otherwise. Galileo's mentor was Giordano Bruno. Giordano Bruno was burned at the stake for even suggesting that the sun was the center of our universe. They didn't know that there were other stars and planets back then. They thought our solar system was all that it was. But there were people who secretly knew that the earth went around the sun. How did they know? Venus, Lucifer. Old Lucifer shared with them the truth. Venus shed its light, the light bearer, the son of the morning, gave us knowledge where the church wanted to keep knowledge from us. Just like in the Bible, the Freemasons look at the snake in the Garden of Eden as the real teacher, and God was the evil one, because God was said to not let us have the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, right? The tree of life and the tree of the fruit of good and evil. So the Freemasons spun it and said, well, Satan was really the first school teacher because Satan encouraged people to get knowledge for themselves, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't have knowledge. And so Satan, which means actually adversary in the Bible, it doesn't mean devil or demon, because there is no such thing, and we should stop scaring our children with this thought that they're going to burn in hell forever for having the wrong thoughts. That's thought police. That's not good. Whatever religion you aspire to. I think that that's evil. And so to the Freemasons, I'm not a Freemason. I don't like those fucking people. But they do make a good point that the evil one was God because he was trying to hold knowledge back from you. And the snake was actually the one who taught us. Of course, it's not literal. None of it's literal. It's metaphorical. So whatever you believe on that, it's just a story to teach us. And so Lucifer being cast down from heaven is a separate story. It was Venus. When the sun comes up, you can't see Venus anymore. I live on the shoreline in New Jersey, and I could go at 4 in the morning down to the shore where I have an unobstructed view of the horizon. And low on the horizon, relatively low on the horizon, there he is, Venus. The son of the morning and son of the evening as well. You can see him on the west coast when the sun goes down. It is the brightest thing in the sky. So they said, well, he tried to be as bright as God is the story, right? So there you go. Lucifer is the planet Venus. The pentagram is how, when the planet's going around the sun, when Venus and Earth come together and line up with the sun, and you draw a line, and in another year or two, they line up again, you draw another line. After about 5 years, you'll see that there's a pentagram drawn. That star, that pentagram, it's nothing to do with any devils or demons. It has to do with the orbit of Venus. And it was the orbit of Venus that people, ancients, watched, and they knew that the church was lying to them. Well, maybe lying is too harsh. Maybe the church just didn't know any better. And anybody who said otherwise was killed. So they had to keep it secret, right? So they worshiped this Lucifer, but they didn't tell anybody what Lucifer meant. They didn't tell anybody that they knew that the earth was not the center of the universe. So there's a little bit of archaic knowledge for you. When you hear Lucifer and you hear Satan, remember these are two completely different things. All right. That's about it. That's all I got for you guys tonight. Thanks again for coming. Let's take a look at what we got for tomorrow. Or Monday. I'm not sure which. Railroad. What is this? Members of the Get LaRouche Task Force. Erwin Sewell, the guy top left. Hey, where'd everybody go? Where did I go? I gotta get an ant. Anybody seen an ant? Erwin Sewell, Kent Robinson, Dennis King, and Myra Lansky Bolin. Thugs and gangsters. Railroad. I wonder what that's got to do with anything. I don't know. But anyway, nonetheless, guys, I had a great time. Let's check the chat one last time here. Yes. Except late for supper. Giordano Bruno said the earth went around the sun, and for that he was burned at the stake. Is it any wonder that those who, through the observation of Venus, found out that the earth doesn't, the sun doesn't go around the earth, but it's the other way around? Is it any wonder they wanted to keep it secret and had to make it part of the secret society? It's no secret to me. But guys, remember, Lucifer is completely different. So when they say that these new world orders, you're welcome, Ray. When they say that these new world orders worship Lucifer, believe me, these new world orders are smart people. They don't worship some guy with a red tail and a pitchfork. Okay, to them that's childish. And actually, what's his name? Albert Pike, in his book Morals and Dogma, said that these people are the profane, and he laughed at them, and he actually had fun trolling Christians with the Satan thing when they really meant Lucifer. So it's a sophisticated kind of religious thing. Okay, I hear you, Mass One. That's cool. But I can prove it, though. Let's see. Now I got to bring it up. Okay. It's just that easy. Let's go to it. Lucifer. Lucifer is a name that, according to dictionaries of the English language, refers either to the devil or to the planet Venus. Can you see it there in that picture, the top left? It's barely legible, barely noticeable. Okay? Lucifer is the planet Venus. And it comes from Hebrew. So, believe me, I'm not going to steer you wrong. I've looked into this stuff. So, let's look. Even in the Bible, bringer of the dawn. Can you see that? Bringer of the dawn. Morning star. Son of the morning. Believe me, I'm not staring you wrong here. Canaanite mythology. It's the morning star is pictured as a god, Atar. This is ancient stuff, guys. Okay. Okay, Mass One. I love you too, brother. But, yeah, that's what these guys, they don't worship Satan. They worship Lucifer. And it's all occult stuff, that's all. In Christianity, yes, to Christians, Lucifer means the devil. But even the Bible never meant it that way. So the guy testing Job was Satan, but Satan in the ancient language meant adversary. Alright, anyway, real quick though, I'm going to show you Lucifer's pentagram. You're going to fucking trip out on this. Alright. Lucifer's pentagram. Let's go with a video. I'm not trying to prove you wrong or anything at this point, Mass One. I understand. You're going to do your thing. That's fine. Let me go back to YouTube and put it in there. Alright, maybe a Venus. Ah, here you go. So, what you'll see is when Earth and Venus line up, you draw a line. Like I said, to me the occult stuff isn't really that important. But it's an interesting distinction, Lucifer versus... Whoa, look at that. Lucifer versus Satan is an interesting thing. That's an occult symbol, but it has nothing to do with devils that burn people for all of eternity. So you could see right there. Now, and there's a circle around it for a reason, right? Let's see. Creating the pentagram of Venus. Alright, so Earth's at the center here. There's Venus. And there's the sun according to Earth, if Earth was still. Venus comes in. And you'll see it. I'll skip ahead a little. And you'll see the 5 points. Now, can you see the 5 points? That's a pentagram. Got nothing to do with devils. Don't be fearful of a devil. There's no such thing, if you ask me. And what is this? That's about it. You guys could look it up on your own. But the pentagram is itself from Venus. It's got nothing to do with devils. It's just that Lucifer and Satan got conflated at some point. Either way, it's inconsequential. Whether I'm right or wrong, it really doesn't have any consequence. Like I was talking about earlier with the occult stuff. It has no predictive ability. It's just interesting. That's all. Guys, thanks again. I really appreciate you guys coming and checking me out. He's a Christian terrorist, Mass One. Don't worry, Mass One. I love you no matter what. And I will say this about Christianity. I will say that I think we need something, some banner under which we can all unite. That's what the GDL is essentially doing. If you look in Europe, the Illuminati, I got this book right here, and I'm reading this right now. The Jacobins during the French Revolution, their first number one thing was to take out Christianity. Christianity united people under one banner. They were a united Europe. And now we're a divided Europe. They took out the Christian religion, and the French Revolution was brutal. And we've been going downhill ever fucking since. So props to you with the Christianity. Whether it's true or not, to me, is a side note, because it gives people something to believe in, something that motivates them, and it unites people under the same banner. When I read the Protocols of Zion, I think it was either 1 or 2 where they said, we need to destroy Christianity, which unites the Goyim, and we need to take out the monarchies, the kings and queens, and convince them that it's evil, because the monarchies are the ones who are best equipped, ironically, to defend us from monsters like these Illuminati people. Whether they worship Satan, Lucifer, it doesn't fucking matter to me. It's interesting, but the point is they are trying to destroy our fucking civilization, and they're having great success. So we need to reunite under these banners. Maybe we do need a dictator or a king, because look what it took to restore Germany to its former glory. It took a dictator to come in there and fucking smash shit, to reorganize. It's not a democracy that votes people into office and asks them nicely to please do our bidding for us. No, a dictator comes in there, raises armies, and fucks shit up until they put back order. Now, are they perfect? No. No system is. Even under, monarchy, you get oppression and all that. But it's better than the fucking slavery we have now. And Christianity and monarchy could unite us again. So I will say that about Christianity. I used to be anti-Christian. I was a born-again Christian when I was younger. And then I found out that I thought, Christianity is a lie. And I felt duped. And I was part of that 10 years ago, that movement which was attacking Christianity. And I made videos. They're still up. You can see my old videos. It's kind of embarrassing. But I leave them up there as a reminder to me of my former ignorance and how far I've come in my thought process. And now I'm not averse to Christianity at all. I think we might need it, honestly. So, another red pill, if you will. Alright, guys, so I will say that, Mass One. It ain't all bad. Thanks, Mile High. I'm trying, brother. You guys are no fucking dummies either. You guys make some content. Make that red pill video. Tomorrow, we'll catch you later. What's this? Hold on, one more comment. I don't like the Christians that shill for Israel. Yes. I think they're brainwashed. Correct. They need to be awakened. Yes. They need to be woke AF. You know what I mean? That's our job. So if you're a Christian, treat them with love and respect, and tell them we can get to the bottom of what made preachers start teaching their flocks that they have to support Israel, justified by some obscure passage of the Bible. Those people, the pastors, have been bought off and corrupted by these same types. These same types who infiltrated the church and instituted Vatican II in the 1960s. The Pope that we have now, Francis, is a complete scumbag and a traitor to the religion. There's a lot of things we could talk about. So maybe with a couple of facts and some love and respect and a little bit of honey, we can convince those Christians, Catholics, whatever, that they've been lied to, and that Israel is against their religion and is against their their wishes and is against everything they stand for. For a long time, up until Martin Luther, the Christian church was against the Jews and Judaism. The Jews are the ones that killed their Messiah. And Martin Luther, when he started Protestantism, he started working with the Jews. And a lot has happened since then. So, anyhow, before I keep going on forever, guys, I love you. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to sub, hit the bell, and we'll be on it just about every night. All right, peace out.